Good afternoon. My name is Mindy Bunselmeyer, and I am the Executive Director for Illinois FFA, and I have been asked by Megan Coy, the District 4 Program Advisor for Facilitating Coordination in Ag Education, FCAE, to do the Career Corner and talk about my job as Executive Director of the FFA Center. So I see a few people have joined us. I'm excited that I see some familiar names there. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you have about my job as Executive Director. First and foremost, what I do is work with Illinois FFA, and my job is to be a program provider and service provider to Illinois FFA members, to agriculture teachers, to our foundation, and to our alumni. So with that, I work on our state officer programming. I work on our state degrees, American degrees, proficiency awards, state convention, camp, all those things that FFA members thoroughly enjoy. I get the opportunity to help put that on and provide those opportunities to FFA members, train our officers to do chapter visits, to do facilitation, to do leadership conferences, your section LTSs, all those things that the officers are doing. I get to be a part of their training process, and I get to be a part of their experience while they're a state officer here at the FFA Center. So I love my job. Megan asked me to do this because she said my job was cool, and my job is really cool. That doesn't mean there aren't days that are a little stressful or times that can be trying, but I have a great job. I started way back in the classroom. I graduated from University of Illinois with a degree in ag education, and I started teaching agriculture at Monticello High School. Go Sages. They're still one of my favorite places in the whole world. I loved teaching, and I actually miss teaching, to be honest with you. I actually am jealous of what I see that my ag teachers get to do every day. It's something I thoroughly loved when I was at Monticello. I had a lot of great students who I miss, who I call now my friends, and I'm so blessed to have taught. I taught there for 8 years. It was a great community, great people, and a wonderful opportunity. So I cut my teeth there working with high school ag students, and I, again, love that. And then I got married, and my husband farms near Decatur. We're in the Moreau-Forsyth School District. So I moved to Moreau-Forsyth, or Decatur area, and I guess that was 2003. And when I did that, I started working for Facilitating Coordination in Ag Education. So I was doing Megan Coy's job, and I did that for 10 years. And what I loved about that is I had the opportunity to travel from school to school to school to see all the great things that our ag teachers were doing with students. And then I got to share ideas from one teacher to the next. It was an amazing opportunity. I loved that. I loved working with the teachers. The teachers became, for me, like what my students had been. They were mine, and they were mine to serve and mine to do a good job for. And so I truly loved being a FCAE program advisor. If you can hear that, that is my bird clock, and my bird clock was a gift because I have no concept of time, and people needed to remind me of when it was the top of the hour. So if you heard my bird clock, it's part of my office decor. Anyway, and my husband hates it, so it has to be here at the office. So what was I saying? FCAE. So I did that for 10 years. And that was an amazing opportunity. And I loved that too, because it was part of Ag Education Family, and it was helping to impact Ag Education Family at a higher level just than just the classroom. I actually got to impact more teachers. But I missed my students, and I missed doing record books and SAEs and contests and driving to and from events. But I kind of decided that it was the opportunity came available to be here at the FFA Center. And I thought this was the opportunity for me to then get back a little bit more direct contact with students and the impact that I could have with students. So I started here at the FFA Center in 2013, and at that time I was the Associate Executive Director, and again, worked with alumni programming. I worked with PAS, and I worked here with FFA. And then in 2015, in the summer of 2015, I started as Executive Director. And that's when I started working directly with the officer team. And as I said, coordinating the events that they do for you, FFA members, and working directly with our foundation. and helping raise dollars from at the local collection drive, but also from business and industry friends. And all of those dollars that we generate for that help support FFA members and the opportunities that we can provide. I still work with alumni, a great organization who put in a lot of volunteer hours for Illinois FFA members to be able to provide leadership scholarships for students to take advantage of, to go to camp and go to WLC and go to 212. So I work with the best organizations, and all those organizations are about serving students who are in ag education. Which is my true first love. That tells you a little bit about how I got here. It tells you a little bit about what I'm passionate about. But even before that, I was blessed with a great high school ag teacher and an active ag program. Record books were something that he was very diligent about. And the experiences I had from my own high school classroom are what fueled my fire into wanting to be an ag teacher and an FFA advisor. My parents were 4-H leaders, so going into a leadership organization was a natural fit for me. I always credit my parents and my ag teacher for giving me my passion to want to be involved in ag education. I saw it change lives with my fellow classmates when I was in high school. I saw it change my life. And then when I worked as a teacher and I saw what it could do, I believe with all my heart that FFA is a life-changing organization that shapes young people into making this world a better place. And as I watch ag teachers, I think one of the questions that Megan asked is, what's one of the best parts about my job is that I get to watch FFA members grow in their experiences, not directly because of anything I do, but I watch what their teachers do for them and what they do for their teachers, and that whole glimpse of the relationship in ag education that I thoroughly enjoyed firsthand when I was a teacher, but now I get to see it from, I'll call it the sidelines or behind the scenes. There's nothing I take greater pride in than watching my teachers do great things for their students, and then watching FFA members just grow and blossom. I get to watch them at camp and be all crazy and nutty, and then my phone was dinging and it was a question, so this is good. But I get to watch FFA members, at camp in the raw or, crazy, and then I watch them put on official dress and really present themselves in either public speaking or Parley Pro or proficiency awards. And then the next thing you know, there are section presidents and they're that officer team that I get to work with. And the next thing I know, there are majors and they become part of our family here at the FFA Center. And it's just an amazing opportunity to be able to watch that. Now, a question that I think I just got texted was, let me read that to you. Did you know in high school that you wanted to do education? So when I first started high school, when I took ag class, I thought I was going to be a vet, right? I loved animals. We were an animal farm. By golly, I was going to be a vet. Well, then my ag teacher kind of painted the harsh reality that he didn't think I could handle, 7 years of college and vet school, and he was absolutely right. Science was not my strongest suit. While it was a great interest of mine, maybe didn't have the tech skills to do that or the strength in that area. So I was really glad he gave me that wake-up call. So then I thought, I'm going to go into communications because I'm a talker and I love to talk and I love to visit with people and have that interaction. So I thought I was going to AgCom, and I thought I wanted to be, Rita Fraser at that time was at my local station in Litchfield. Now she's with RFD, but I thought I wanted to be Rita Fraser, and it was just awesome. And then I had the true blessing of being a section president and state officer myself. And in that, I thought, oh, wow, I could do this. I could teach. I could be in the classroom and see how it changes lives. And especially then, I had this perception that all FFA chapters that were really great FFA chapters also had really strong classroom. And sometimes I saw that, yeah, there's so much more going on in the classroom than I realized, because all I saw was FFA. So then when I saw these teachers doing all these things in their classroom and really impacting students far beyond even FFA, that I realized, I thought, oh, this is for me. So it wasn't really until I became section president that I decided I wanted to go into ag education. Then after that, I went to college and I did, all the ag ed stuff, but then I student taught, and that sealed the deal for me. I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. Next question is, what is the hardest part of my current position and how am I able to handle this? That's a really tough one, especially right now. What's really hard, obviously with COVID-19, we don't get to see our officers every day, and trying to do things remotely is challenging. But I'll say beyond that, Anytime news is disappointing to an FFA member, either directly or, as a chapter, it's always challenging to deliver that hard news or that difficult news of maybe you didn't win, or this opportunity is full, or this opportunity isn't available, or they've done something where they broke a rule and I had to be the disciplinarian. Those times are challenging, but they're not, how you get through that is you're doing the very best you can and you're doing the right thing for the organization. First and foremost, my job is to protect Illinois FFA on a big scheme, and that means looking out for our organization with every potential risk and liability. That's been a really growing point for me. I've had to learn a lot about that, and I've had to learn some things the hard way. So that can be kind of the tough thing about the job, but I love the fact that every day is different and that every day is challenging. When I started high school, did I think I was going into education? Nope, but I did by the time I was done, because that's what section president year did for me. So I hope all you section presidents that are listening, you think about ag education, because it can change your life. I can promise you that. Let's see. Oh, what's my favorite part? Well, I think I've already said that, obviously. It's working with students. It's working with students and watching students grow, and then watching the relationship that our teachers have with our students, just that positive impact that teachers make and the role models that they are, and just how invested they are in one another. And then on the same token, how much students love and admire and respect their ag teachers. Again, with everything with COVID-19, it's really tough to watch everybody do things remotely. And as we share more disappointing news after disappointing news, events being canceled or things having to be changed, what I find so comforting is that our ag teachers, who have to help deliver part of that bad news, are the first people sometimes that our students turn to. And I think about how blessed they are, that they have young people that look up to them that way and that reach out to them that way. To say that you too have that impact on one another, both student to teacher, that's what life's all about. Those relationships and that bond and that helping each other through these times. Okay, so what's the next question? I was wondering what your favorite CDE was during high school. Soils. I was a soil judger, and it's not dirt. Dirt's what's under your fingernails. Soil. At first, I was good at it, and I don't know why, but I had a good ag teacher. But I was good at it, and I found it challenging, and I found it one of those contests where, yes, you could learn all the stuff ahead of time, but you really had to get down in that dirt. You had to get down in that soil pit. You had to put some water on there. You had to look at the topography around you. There were things that challenged me in a way that I just really enjoyed. And then teaching soils, oh yeah, that was one of my favorite things. Now, we weren't good at that contest. It took us a couple years to get good at that contest, but that was my favorite one. You might think public speaking, because I told you I was a talker, but I talk a little too fast for the public speaking judges. And yeah, I really wasn't that great at public speaking, but I definitely loved soils. And I love Parley Pro too. And that was old school Parley Pro, which is a lesson for another day, but I thoroughly enjoyed that too. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Oh, and somebody said, oh, the stories you could tell. Yes, there are some Monticello families out there that could tell lots of stories. I have a great soils contest story, but we're going to save that too. It involved a tetanus shot at the end of the day, so you really don't want to hear that story. With all the different aspects of your job, how do you balance your time? Well, that's a really good question, so shout out to who asked that. But I'm like ag teachers. It's hard to balance your time because, yeah, you're just so busy and there's so much going on that sometimes you ask yourself what balance. But I think what's important, and I know that ag teachers do this too, and I didn't teach while I had my children. My children came after that, and I always admire teachers that are balancing their children and their FFA programs and their family and farming. All of those things are a balance, but my children have become very much a part of this organization, and I have the best role models in the world for my children. I have all of our officer teams and all these FFA members they interact with at state convention and state proficiency awards day. I bring my kids along, and they're a part of this. And I say my kids, I bring my husband along too. For those of you who've moved into state convention before, or worked at state fair or farm progress show, those are times, or gone to our trip to DC with Corn Congress, my husband is along. He drives the truck, and he helps haul, and he helps load the truck, and he understands all those parts of the process. I was lucky. He also taught high school ag and FFA, so he too knows the value and the life-changing experiences that FFA brings. So he buys into what we're all doing and he gets to be a part of that. He gets to select what he wants to be a part of. So hopefully he enjoys that. I know he enjoys it or he wouldn't keep doing it, trust me. So how do I balance? You just involve your family with it, and you involve the FFA with your family and your family with FFA, and everybody just pitches in and we all get it done. Balance isn't a question I'm really very good at, but we do our best. What skills, qualities do you have to have for this job? Well, I think, that's a really good question. I think just being open-minded and knowing that while you have to be consistent in all the decisions you make and in the way you handle things, that is so important, but you also have to evaluate every situation for itself. So I think just being really open-minded, being very forgiving. Life can just take over and we can't always control every circumstance. So that takes being adaptable, that takes being flexible. Yes, we have to be very organized and planned, and thank goodness the office is filled with great organizers and other people. I got to give a shout out to my colleagues here at the center. I wouldn't do this job if it were not for them. But in all of that organization and structure that we try to provide, you have to be flexible. You have to be adaptable. You have to put yourself in other people's shoes. You do have to be empathetic. You have to try to see things from their perspective and always think bigger than what we are. And when I say that, meaning every event we do, there's always a way to make it better. While I think we do a fantastic job, there's just a way to, every time, there's a way to strive to be better. And so it's just being open-minded about that. What is your biggest piece of life career advice? I think I just said it. You got to be flexible. You got to know that life is going to throw one thing after the next, and that glass is always half full. And even if it's only full of air, it is still half full. You have to be positive. You got to look and you got to find the silver lining in everything. You got to find the best in every situation, but most importantly, the best in every person. And I do believe that. I believe that there's good in every person that we meet. And I believe it's my calling in life and all of our calling in life to find the good in other people and emphasize that. We all have weaknesses. We all have things we could be better at, but it's focusing on the good in everyone and focusing and using the good in them and the strengths that they bring to the table. There's nothing more important than that, is seeing the good in people and bringing that out in them and making sure that they know you believe in that in them. While it's important to be adaptable and adjustable, never put any situation over that of a person or a relationship you have. Those are important. At the end of the day, they're the core of who you are and what you should be. Are there any other questions? I love the questions popping up on the screen. I hope I've done a decent job of keeping track of those. I do know there have maybe been a few that I did not. And I'm loving seeing the names that are here. Thank you guys for joining. I see some names blast from the past. I see some of our current section presidents. Just so much fun to see all of this. Happy to answer any other questions. I think a couple other things that I want to emphasize is that here at the FFA Center, and in an ag ed family, you all know, for those of you who are involved in your high school ag programs, what a family unit you are with your ag teacher and your fellow FFA members. Well, we're lucky enough to have that here at the FFA Center too. Our staff, and every year we get a new set of major state officers, and we become very much like a family. And so every summer when we elect new, we're super excited to bring in the new family members. We're also really sad to see the old family members go, but they never really go. As the past state officers can tell you, we kind of put our hooks in you, and you're with us for life if you want to be. If you need your space, we understand that too. But I'm very blessed to be in an organization, work for an organization, and work with people here at this building that make it like a family. We look out for one another, we care about one another very much, and we try to make the best decisions together at all times. Our boards work very hard for you. Our FFA board, our alumni board, our IVAT board, our foundation board, all of those boards are volunteers. They are people who are dedicated to Illinois ag education. So serving boards like that, people that are willing to give their own time, you just couldn't ask for a better group of people or organization to serve. I believe with my whole heart that FFA changes lives, as I've already said, but it's the people and how well connected we are. Here we go. How are you able to work with state officers that are quiet and reserved? And how are you able to work with such a wide variety of personalities? Well, that's what I think is so fun, because we do have state officers that are quiet and reserved. We have some that are super outgoing, big personalities. And what's so fun is every year you get to see a different balance in those personalities, and we get to be a part of helping them realize those personalities and appreciate those personalities, because you don't always appreciate every personality that you work with. And that's really fun for me to work with officers and kind of help challenge their way of thinking that, okay, that's not your style and that's not how you operate, but how can we find the strength in what they do and balance that with the strength in what you do? I think that's really fun. That's like a puzzle piece challenge that I love about this. The quiet and reserved ones, I do worry that I scare them a little bit, but I also have to kind of pick on them and make fun of them just to kind of keep the day going. But I know at the end of the day, they know how much I value and respect them being either big personalities or quiet and reserved. That makes everything very fun. Oftentimes, my colleague, John Edgar, he's our assistant director, he and our personalities balance one another. And we oftentimes find in every team that our officers will gravitate towards those balances that John and I provide to one another. And so we're very, very fortunate. We're very blessed that we get to see that in our officer teams. There's nothing I love more than the challenge of working with an officer team and helping them. They oftentimes know their strengths, but then helping them hone those strengths, focus on that, and bring that to the surface, recognize your weaknesses, and then learn how you balance that with teammates. That's really fun. I feel like it's like a life skill, but it's also key to the success they have as an officer team throughout the year. So that's a great question and a great challenge. I hope that this current officer team enjoyed my response to that. What else can I tell you? I'm happy to answer questions. I know Megan said this takes about 15 to 20 minutes. I do have a conference call that I have to be on, but trust me, I'd much rather visit with all of you. So if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer that. Obviously, you could hopefully see by this opportunity that I'm very excited about what I do here. I'm very passionate about what I know FFA does for each of you in your classrooms and in your buildings. And I love what I do. So if there are no other questions, and I don't think that there are, I really want to thank you. This has been fun. Been very different because I'm talking to myself, which I guess I do a lot anyway. The officers could tell you that. I do talk to myself anyway. What general advice do you have for students during this time? Okay, so this is a good one. This is a tough time, and this isn't a time that I wouldn't trade places with any of you. I know that things are really challenging right now, especially if you're a senior and you feel like opportunity after the next is being taken away from you. But I challenge you to find the good in it. I challenge you to find the silver lining. I do know, as we've adjusted state proficiency awards, as we've adjusted selection committee, as we've adjusted national chapter award, as we're going to have to make adjustments to state convention. In all of these adjustments, we've also found ways to make our processes better and strengthen the rigor of our program, but also strengthen our communication with one another. So even though times are really challenging, I want to challenge you to find the best in the situation, find the silver lining, find something out of this that you have done better because of this situation, or find someone that you communicate with more now than you have before. As I mentioned earlier, ag teachers are oftentimes a person you turn to whenever you get some of the disappointing news. How blessed ag teachers are that you are there in their life like that, and they're there in your life like that. But I also want to challenge you to know that there are probably others that you've been more connected to or communicated more with because of the situation, that there's good in that. I think that in some ways we are more connected now than we ever have been. I wouldn't have done this Facebook Live thing if I hadn't been asked, and we wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for COVID-19. And so hopefully one of you today said, I want her job someday, and that someday, long time down the road, give me a little more time here, you might be doing this too. So I do just want to encourage you to, find the best in the situation. It's hard. I know it can be challenging, but there are times when I feel like we are more connected. There's also time, if you are sitting upright and you're able to watch this screen, that means you're healthy. And if you're healthy, you should be thankful for that. So start there, and then start with the people around you that you're more connected to. Be thankful for that. And then think about ways in which that your life has strengthened in some way because of this. Again, it can be hard, but I was on a Facebook Live birthday party last week, and I know two things. I know that I would never have been invited to Leah's 18th birthday party face to face because they would assume I was too busy and I wasn't going to be able to come, and, you know, probably would have just been for friends. But because they had to do her birthday party virtually, boom, Aunt Mindy gets invited. I'm not really her blood aunt, but she calls me Aunt Mindy, and I like that. But I was on that, and it was so cool. We did a Zoom birthday party. I got to talk about how I was at her baby shower when she was born, and those are things that I wouldn't have shared if I had been there face to face. So I think there are just great things that you can find in this, even though there are a lot of things that are a big bummer. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are some things that are a real kick in the gut to have to adjust and change. And it's not fun, but I know I can also find the good in all the situation too. And as I'm looking at this, my teammate, Andrea Gill, it's now Andrea Clem. It was Andrea Gill then. We were state officers together. She's on here making a comment. She's saying good advice. She's propping me up, just like we did when we were state officers together. That would not have happened if it weren't for this opportunity. So you've connected, it's connected us. It's connected back to our friends and the people that mean something to us. And then Katrina Van Dyke, who's our other teammate, who was Katrina Rose at that time. She is saying hi to Andrea. And so the three of us who were state officers together in 1990, 91, which was way a long time ago, back in the big hair days, which I know my hair doesn't look that great today either, but back in the big hair days, the three of us were state officers together, and here we are connecting on this Facebook Live thing. So kids, there's good in this situation. And I shouldn't say just kids. Kids, adults, all of you that are watching, there's good in this situation. You connected three sisters back together, three FFA sisters that mean a lot to each other. You connected us back through this Facebook Live chat. So I don't know if there's any other questions or anything else to say, but I am really, really excited that some of you joined and I could say hello to you. And what an amazing blessing. Today is a good day. Actually, I will sign off like our state officers have been signing off. Have a grand day, because that's something I always write in my meals. Oh, here's another question. What is my favorite memory as an ag teacher, and what was your favorite thing you have done in my current job? Okay, my favorite memory as an ag teacher. Ooh, that's a tough one, but it's also one I'm just really proud of as an ag teacher. So when I was teaching, I already told you that soils was my favorite contest. So I had this guy his name was Bob McLeese. He was a state soil classifier, and he came in and he talked to my students about getting involved in the process of naming drummer silty clay loam as a state soil. So my students did all this research, we did all this homework, and then we got a hold of our local legislator and senator, and we proposed a bill to make drummer silty clay loam the official state soil. And the first year, of course, it didn't happen. It took us 3 years. But those students that were sophomores when Bob came to our classroom, by the time they were seniors, they were successful in getting drummer silty clay loam named as our state soil. And it was just a huge undertaking, but we had students that were involved in the process. We took a charter bus to lobby for it. I had students that never had official dress on before. We were taking kids to Bemida and buying them black pants. Like, we were making this an event. And it was just so great to see kids that they were just passionate about this, and they knew and learned more about soils than anything. Like, I could teach them about soils and they could take a test and they could tell me stuff. But when they got on board with helping that be a part of the process, be named a state symbol, the learning just went off the charts. And I contend to you that any of those students who were in that class and that were part of that process for those 3 years, you could quiz them on soil today and they would still know it because they got into it. And so I was just so proud of, it took us 3 years. So that's a lot of students I'm really proud of. But that was probably one of my favorite memories, because so many memories stemmed from that. Yeah, I could go on and on about that. Now, my favorite memory of this job, oh man, I don't know, because that's tough, because then it's like, oh, this person's her favorite, because it always involves somebody and something we did. And yeah, but I'll have to say, this one involves Rachel Hawk, who's past state officer. But she and I, it was back when it was state convention, and we had to go out super early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning, and put out signs by the parking lots to tell people where to park, to point in FFA parking over here. And so we go to the first parking lot, and we're putting this sign. We don't know where we're supposed to put it. And this gentleman starts hollering at us, you got to put it by the pole. You got to put it by the pole. And anyway, it was a long inside story, but it just, we laughed so hard we just almost cried, because he kind of scared us. He came out of nowhere, and he had a little bit of a strange accent, and he would just crazy morning. And it was just one of those ones where I laughed at so hard. And she and I can joke about it to this day. And half the staff can all joke about it. And everybody at convention that week could joke about it too. Just our crazy adventures. And those are the fun things about state convention that none of the rest of you see. But there's just some fun times where we just laugh. And that's probably one of my favorite memories, without calling out any current or past officer that I worked with. But I have a lot of great memories. They're just amazing students that I get to work with. Oh, and yeah, Lane Harvey says, have a grand day. And oh, Rachel Hawk is on her. And yes, and he did yell at us, have a blessed day, when we were done. And that's how we always sign off together. Have a blessed day. So yeah, and that's how I feel. I've had a very blessed opportunity to work here at the FFA Center, and thanks for asking fun questions. This has gotten pretty informal. I could tell lots of other stories too, but I don't see any other here. But yeah, the by the pole is by that pole is what we had to do. We had to put the sign by the pole, and he wasn't wrong. It was the best place to put that sign, and it's advice that I have continued to live by when putting up signs so people could read them. But anyway, happy to answer any other questions or tell any other stories that we have. But I think Rachel Hawk is going to be on Career Corner on Wednesday, which I hope she doesn't tell any Mindy Bunselmeyer stories, but I guess she could, maybe I'll have to watch and see. But I think that ends it, right, Megan? Are we done? If there are no other questions or any other stories you want me to tell, thank you all so much. And I see these little hearts floating up, so it must mean you like it. But it's been a lot of fun. I want to thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to shut the video off now.